Hi, I'm Robbie Lawler.
What's up, Fight family? This is your favorite MMA coach, Thiago Alves, the Pitbull.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Pedro Moyos.
This is Mike Brown.
Guys, I'm Alexandr. And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And this is We Want Picks.
And you're watching We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
And we want picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks. Hi, everybody from American Top Picks.
My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. Jacob and I are going to break down the entire UFC Vegas 53 fight card. We're going to give you our picks, our bets, and our fantasy plays. And if you want $50, $50 for free, all you need to do is go to WeWantPicks.com/bets.
Is that all you have to do?
That's it. Just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit, and we send you $50. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it. And this stream is brought to you by EarnU. EarnU is the world's first sports and esports prediction game.
Is it really?
Allowing you to earn crypto risk-free. Check it out at earnu.io. It really is risk-free, and it's a ton of fun. earnu.io. Jacob, you seem a little sassy today.
I'm ready. I'm excited.
All right.
I've never been so
Jacob's
excited
ready.
for a card in my life. This is just an absolute banger from top to bottom. We're gonna get into it. Let's do this thing.
It's 2 weeks in a row of pretty weak cards, but there's still spots to make money, and there's still some entertaining fights ahead of us. So let's jump right in. First up at UFC Vegas 53, we have Tatsuro Taira taking on Carlos Candelario. Tatsuro Taira, 10-0 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, riding a 3-fight stoppage streak. Carlos Candelario, 8-1 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off the first loss of his career. Tatsuro Taira is a big prospect that people have been talking about for a while. He's the #1 ranked flyweight in Japan, and like a lot of the fighters out of that region, he's ridiculously young. This guy is only 22 years old, but he does have 10 fights. 9 of them are finishes. If you had to put him in a category as far as style is concerned, I'd say he's probably a grappler, but he's also a very patient striker, and he does have legit power in his hands. A handful of his submission wins were set up from strikes on his feet, and then his ridiculous speed followed him to the ground and just snatched something up. He does not have the best takedowns in the division, but he will stick with them. He'll drag you to the ground, and he's just, what he could have done in one really clean shot takes him 3 or 4, constant pressure, but he does not give up on those entries. Carlos Candelario, he's a Northeast guy. He trains in Connecticut at a gym that I'm very familiar with, Underdog MMA. So shout out to that crew over there. He's coming off a loss on Contenders. What was that?
So that's where I trained there for a while.
Oh, did you? Name one coach.
What's that?
Okay.
I'm not gonna put him on blast. I mean, they don't want to be
Put him
known
on
as
blast
coaching me. No, they don't want to be associated with me. I'm not gonna do that to them.
Okay. Anyway,
How do you think
Carlos is coming off a loss on the Contender Series, but it was a really fun fight, and he was able to work a UFC contract out of that anyway. Style-wise, he's pretty good everywhere. He's got very good hands. He has Golden Glove boxing experience. He's got solid BJJ with competition experience there as well. And up until his split decision loss on the Contender Series, he was undefeated, but there is a 4-year gap. He took 4 years off because of injuries and just life in general caught up to him. And anytime we get one of these undefeated Asian prospects, there's always a bunch of you in the live chat, in the comments, screaming about his record's padded, it's trash, and all that. But I will say, if you dig into Taira's record, he does seem to have done this correctly. Every fight is essentially a logical step up, right? So there's almost nobody with a losing record in there. There's a couple of guys with like 50 fights, so 30 and 20, something to that effect. So he has fought, at least a logical order and has followed a logical progression in the level of competition. It's going to be an interesting fight because I think Taira's the more technical fighter, but Carlos is the tougher fighter. And I think Carlos has more ways to win. I think if Taira can push a clean ground and pound game without getting sucked into a brawl, he can absolutely take the decision. But If he lets Carlos make it ugly, like Carlos did in both of his Contender Series fights, then I think we see Carlos squeak out a decision. So Carlos he's one of the more live dogs on this card. He is willing to go to war, but I don't think he's been the same since that 4-year layoff in 2017. I think this is a much closer fight than these odds are saying. I think these odds are super wide for a UFC debut in Taira. And then, Carlos, we've seen that guy go to war. I do think Taira gets it done. I think he stays technical. He uses his speed, and he doesn't let Carlos turn it into sort of an ugly war. But if Carlos is able to do that, then he absolutely takes this fight. Taira's the pick. I'm not betting on this fight, but I may live bet because we'll know pretty quickly if Carlos is going to be able to make this ugly. Jakey boy, speaking of ugly, what are your thoughts? Gotcha.
Take it back right now. Slap you across the face. Go ahead and apologize. Apologize in front of the people.
Nah, it's going to get awkward because you know I'm not going to apologize.
I'll sit here in silence for 2 hours. I'll sit here in silence for 2 hours.
All right,
I'll get into it because this is an important fight. I agree. I think these odds are a little bit wide. I want to start off with two things. First of all, I want to address last week, lock of the week. From now on, moving forward, lock of the week losses by submission are not going to count losses, okay? I'm not going to do it. That was the most ridiculous loss I've ever seen in my life. Jordan Wright losing by a guillotine. Come on, the guy knew he was outmatched, pulled a guillotine. They're not going to count as losses anymore. Second of all, lock of the week. I don't know if we've ever, and Angelo, don't correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I've ever lost back-to-back lock of the weeks ever. I don't think I've ever lost back-to-back lock of the weeks. With that said, last week we lost. This week, it's going to be, it's an automatic guaranteed win. So let's get into this card because Carlos is the lock of the week. There is no doubt about in my mind. To start off the first card, I saw this guy fight. There is that layoff.
It's going to be downhill if this doesn't
he mentioned,
well.
Excuse me, sir. He mentioned that layoff. He said I needed to find a job to support my family, basically. So he took some time off. But in that time off, he said he stayed in MMA, right? He was coaching, he was still training, but he wasn't fighting fights professionally. He also talked about how he was in a bad accident that could have been really, really bad. It kind of changed his outlook on life, and he found love for fighting again. And he's in this because he absolutely loves it all over again. And if we look at the technicals from this fight, I agree. One of the first things I did was look at Tatsuro's record. I went back. I'm like, oh, surely he's fighting cans, and he is not. You were right about that. He's not fighting cans. That record is legit. He is a very good fighter, but he's a little too patient for me. He's a very technical striker, but he'll just kind of wait and wait. His takedowns aren't as aggressive as I'd like them to be. He's good on the ground, but when I'm watching Carlos fight, there was that layoff, and I agree. He's not kind of the same person that he was, but if he can turn that corner and become what he was, I think he's a better wrestler. I think he's a better grappler. I think he's the more aggressive striker. And I think some people are built, Angelo, and I think some people are built a little bit different. And Carlos is one of those guys that's willing to brawl and has been in brawls and is built a little bit different and knows what to do in those situations where Tatsuro is kind of a clean fighter, right? He's patient, he's in and out, he's very clean in his striking. If he lands a 1-2 and knocks out Carlos, I'm not going to be surprised, right? Because he's the more technical striker and he'll be patient waiting for those counters. But if Carlos is able to put pressure on, turn this into a brawl, get a couple takedowns, he can very, very easily win this fight because I think they are very, very evenly matched. Carlos, I think, has a little bit more power, but it's a little bit more looping in his shots. But if this goes to the ground, I like Carlos' ability. There was one fight I watched. Again, this was before the layoff. He has good takedown defense, but he got on his back. He was on his back for a total of 10 seconds. I timed it. It was incredible. Closed guard for the first 5 seconds, opened up the guard, got back to his feet in 10 seconds. Can he do that against Taira? Probably not good to end up on your back against Taira, right? But if he does it on his back, I like his urgency to get back to his feet. I like his wrestling. I like his striking. I like his aggression. Carlos, my man, welcome to Lock of the Week. Congrats on the big win, and happy to have you here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, and he trains at underdog considering he's an underdog. and he's your lock of the week. He trains at Underdog MMA in Connecticut, so shout out to Russell Leak and the guys over there. Pretty good gym. They put out some
Russell
solid
Leak. That was my.
prospects.
I didn't want to. I mean, you
Ah,
said
yeah,
it, but
that's what it is.
that was my striking coach. But yeah, and Tatsuro too. He gets hit, man. For a guy that's patient and waits for counter punches, he does get hit. He'll throw some lazy kicks as well. I think Carlos can capitalize on that. So I'm Carlos all the way. Lock of the week. First fight of the night. We're gonna get it over with. We got to end that streak before it even starts. We're feeling good.
Well, there you go. Listen, anybody who doesn't know what the lock of the week is, some people in the comments are like, oh.
Oh, credibility loss with K. Hansen, lock of the week. I am 12-4-1 picking all underdogs. So
that is, listen, I give you a very hard time, but Jacob's lock of the week, if you go Google UFC Vegas 53 lock of the week, somebody's going to say Alexandr Romanov. And he is. That dude is a guarantee to win. We'll break down that fight later. But what Jacob does is he gets an underdog every single week, picks an underdog, lays out logically how he thinks that person's going to win, and you just rattled off your record with 12-4 or something in your last, 16 weeks?
I won 4 weeks in a row. That's a whole month of picking underdogs twice now. So I've done 4 weeks in a row, 1-1-1, and then 1-1-1-1, and I literally haven't lost back-to-back weeks. So,
well, I bust your balls quite a bit, but good for you. I'll be rooting for Carlos here. I'm a Connecticut guy. He's a Connecticut guy. I don't know him very well, but I know his coaches and his team very well. $9,200 to $7,000. I do think there's value in Carlos Candelario, even if you like Tatsuro Taira, because Carlos is not a guy that you're just going to blow through and finish. He is a tough guy. He is a scrappy guy. Even if he's on the wrong side of the exchanges and the grappling, I still see him surviving and doing well. So I'm assuming you'll have him in your DraftKings lineup at that price.
Oh, hell yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And then the betting odds, I'm going to wait to live bet on this. And Monkey Knife Fight, if you don't know what Monkey Knife Fight is, the numbers you're looking at here are strike lines. Those are the total strikes they're saying will be landed by each fighter. And if you pick the more or the less correctly, you can triple your money. What do you think of the Monkey Knife Fight line here? It's probably more and more.
It probably is a more and more. I think this is a brawl. I think this is the first time that Tatsuro I think he's going to be up to the challenge. I don't think he's going to fold under the pressure.
No,
I just think
and he's
that
been in the
Carlos is going to
decision
win
before.
Right, and I just think Carlos is going to win the majority of those exchanges for the judges. So, I think it's probably a more and more play.
Yeah, it's probably more and more. Check that out at WeWantPicks.com/MKF. And if you want 50 free dollars, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. We give you $50 for signing up with any one of our betting partners. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Next up at UFC Vegas 53, we have Gina Mazany taking on Shanna Young. Gina Mazany 7-5 overall. She's 2-3 in her last 5, alternating wins and losses. Shanna Young 7-4 overall, 2-3 in her last 5, riding a 2-fight UFC skid. Gina Mazany's working through her second stint in the UFC. She currently sits at 2-5 overall. And what's incredible about that is that means she only had 5 fights and then bang, was in the UFC. And unfortunately hasn't been going that well. Anyway, 7 fights in the UFC, 2-5 overall in the UFC. Style-wise, she is strong and a grappler. She averages almost 5 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is a ridiculously impressive number. Her issue is her striking. She doesn't like getting hit. She clams up when you pressure her, and she has a tendency to get finished if you come at her with that striking pressure. She took down Priscilla Cachoeira 4 times in 2 rounds, and then she still managed to get TKO'd. Shanna Young is also on her second stint in the UFC. She's a solid boxer who isn't afraid to fight in the pocket, and she's got some decent power. She's very tough, and she doesn't stop coming forward. She is a good wrestler in her own right, but she does have gaps in the BJJ department. The odds have Gina as a pretty good-sized favorite, and this is actually widened since I did my quick picks video. And this is definitely a win or go home, win or get your walking papers type matchup. And I think Gina is that favorite because of the takedowns. Shanna has been taken down in all 3 of her UFC fights and has lost all 3 of them because of that wrestling pressure and because of the takedowns. I think Gina gets the takedowns. I do think she rides out the decision. But Shanna is tough. She is willing to bang, and we have seen Gina lose to strikes after dominating the grappling. So Mazany is the pick, but the bet that I will be placing is Shanna Young wins inside the distance. decision, no action. And all that means is if Shanna Young is able to stop Gina Mazany, let's say the exact same way Priscilla Cachoeira did, right? Got taken down 4 times, then still managed to knock her out. If Shanna Young pulls that off, then I will get paid. If Shanna Young just gets taken down and beat on for 15 minutes and survives, well, then I get a refund. That bet never happened. So it's a win inside the distance, decision, no action bet on Shanna Young. Gina is the pick, though. WeWantPicks.com/bets is the only place you're going to find a bet like that. We have 5 partners. BetOnline is the one partner that offers that bet. If you sign up, make a deposit, I'll send you $50. Jacob, what do you think?
Yeah, you could see Gina in her last fight was actually a 200 favorite, and you could see why in that fight. She was absolutely dominating the first round, absolutely mauled Coach Taira. In the second round was mauling her as well. She actually kind of got screwed in that fight because she had Priscilla down on the ground in full guard, middle of the octagon. We're just kind of doing body, head, and Carlos Beltran had seen enough and stood them up. And once they stood up, that's when Priscilla just started teeing off on her, and Gina was literally just running away at that point. So she was in complete control of that fight, and they stood them up. I didn't really like it. I could see, I guess, why, but she had complete control. I mean, it's just a tough situation, especially for someone that is, I mean, that's what she does, is grapple. That's where she wants to be. She was controlling the fight, so she kind of got screwed in that situation, but the truth of the matter is she did end up getting knocked out, and she did not look good once she started getting hit. I think that she should, kind of dominate this matchup. I think she should be able to do the same thing. Get the takedowns. I worry a little bit if she can't get the takedowns, because sometimes she has a lot of body lock takedowns, right? She's not shooting singles. She's not shooting like these blast doubles. It's just she gets close to you, she body locks you, then she has some good trips out of that. But if she can't really get to you, and if Shayna's length is an issue, she kind of just starts reaching, right? She just kind of just starts reaching for you, and that's why she gets hit. So if she can't get the takedown, this could be an interesting live bet situation. If she can't get an early takedown, it's probably going to be trouble for her. And on the ground, Shayna is very good at leg locks, too. So if there is a weird scramble, she will always go for those leg locks, the knee bars, the heel hooks. Ryan Hall shout out. So I could see this. I agree. I think that's a great bet. Inside the distance, decision, no action for Shanna Young. My pick's going to be Gina, because I think that she is probably the better fighter. She has a clear path to victory. But I completely 100% agree with that bet that you made.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to bet on Gina, regardless of the odds, because of how she's finishable. But she does, like you said, dominate the grappling. She's $8,900 in DraftKings. Frankly, she could end up scoring 1 million points. She averages almost 5 takedowns per 15 minutes. She got Priscilla Cachoeira down 4 times in 2 rounds. You add another round to that, she's getting 6, 7 takedowns. Those are 5 points each, plus the control time. Gina Mazany might be one of the highest DraftKings scorers this week, or she may get TKO'd because a couple of punches come her way. She literally turns her head and doesn't know what to do. So super risky in DraftKings.
That last fight, she literally looked at the ref like, she's hitting me. And the ref was like, she literally got punched in the face and looked at Beltran like, what? She's hitting me. Like, it was so weird. And Beltran's like, do you want me to stop it? Or like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And then literally got stopped like 5 seconds later.
Well, and that is the problem. So that's why I'm not going to bet on her. I'm probably not going to have her in my DraftKings lineup, but damn, she may score really well if she wins. Are you going to take the shot in DraftKings?
Yeah, I think it's probably more one of those like a multi-entry thing. If you're playing multi-entries, you definitely want her in one of your lineups. But if you're playing a single lineup, I wouldn't trust her.
Yeah, and Monkey Knife Fight is interesting. Again, if you don't know what Monkey Knife Fight is, it is daily fantasy. All you need to do is say more or less on that strike line that we see there, 79 to 50. And the reality is, if Shanna Young lands 50 strikes, Gina Mazany's probably turned her head and given up at that point. I mean,
if she's on her back, because like I said, Gina's one of those old school wrestlers where she just controls you, either half guard or full guard, just body, head. She doesn't try to posture up and transition. It's just body, head. So those are going to add up quick. And if you're on the bottom, just body, head, they usually return those body.
Yeah.
You know, and she's probably not going to go anywhere if she gets on her back either. So I could see this being a more situation.
It could be a more. Gina, obviously the striking worries me. So the 50, I don't know what to do with. But if you like this line, hit it now because they do move. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. I already mentioned my bet, but WeWantPicks.com/bets. Next up, At UFC Vegas 53, we have Natan Levy taking on Mike Breeden. Mike Breeden is 10-4 overall. He's 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a KO loss to Alexandr Hernandez. Natan Levy 6-1 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off a disappointing loss in his UFC debut. Mike Breeden is coming off a short notice loss in his UFC debut about 6 months ago. He's a good striker with solid range control and variety. He has some power in his hands, but he doesn't have enough to really steal a fight later in the rounds. He's more of a volume guy that's always throwing something. He has okay takedown defense, and he was able to defend 7 of 9 from Anthony Romero on Contender Series, but his get-up game is solid even when he does get taken down. Natan Levy is coming off a loss to Rafa Garcia in his UFC debut, which I made a ton of money on. I was not high on Natan Levy going into that fight, even though he's a pretty good-sized favorite. Natan's a very good grappler who grapples every opportunity he gets, meaning he wastes no time on his feet. He immediately looks for trip-style takedowns and other takedowns. If you throw a kick, he's going to look to catch it, and he's going to look to run through it. He's very good on the ground, but he almost gets too excited and looks for chasing the finish, and he ends up in weird scrambles, and then all of a sudden he's defending a Kimura, then he's defending a guillotine, and he's chasing things and sort of putting himself in harm's way during that process. And a lot of that is just lack of experience, and that will come with time. Rafa Garcia was able to take him down 7 times and control him for almost 6 minutes. And it's an interesting fight because we've got a young, hot prospect in Natan Levy. The UFC's definitely looking to get him back on track. If you watch any of Natan Levy's fights, they're pretty straightforward. Get it to the ground, work from there. In his wins, he has 3 finishes and 3 decisions. His finishes were pretty opportunistic, and he just snatches things up and scrambles. His decisions are sloppy, and if I'm being honest, I still think he's going to win against Breeden, but he does worry me. I don't think he's as good as these odds say or the odds in his last fight say. I think the relentless takedown attempts from Natan will get it to the ground eventually. And even if he's not that successful, I do think the judges are going to like that forward pressure, even if he doesn't get a submission or even if he only gets a small percentage of his takedowns. I think Natan Levy wins kind of a sloppy decision, honestly, but this is another, Mike Breeden is a live dog here. I think there's a little more hype than substance to Natan Levy. What do you think, Jakey boy?
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that you mentioned the Natan Levy kind of over-aggression, because in my notes for this fight, I have quite simply who can stay the most calm in this fight, who does not get baited into being too aggressive, because you mentioned Natan Levy. He can get over-aggressive at time in the grappling, even in the striking. Mike Breeden against Alexandr Hernandez, you could tell that Alexandr Hernandez came across with pressure, and he was baited into that brawl, and it was against the fence, and was baited into that brawl, ended up getting knocked out because of it. If you're Natan Levy, you got to stick to the grappling, but stay calm about it. Don't force it. Stay patient with it. The takedowns will be there, and don't get into a brawl, because Mike Breeden is one of those guys that he got hurt against Alexandr Hernandez, and you could tell he got that look on his face. It wasn't panic. It was like, okay, you want to do this? He bit down on his mouthpiece, started throwing bombs. He ended up getting knocked out because of it, but he's a guy that will throw down. And if you're Natan Levy, you don't want to throw down with Mike Breeden when you have a clear path to victory in your grappling game. So I think Natan Levy's a play. I think even in the striking, he's a little bit more technical than Mike Breeden. Mike Breeden is a guy that just kind of throws big power looping shots. So Natan is the play in this matchup, but I agree. If he gets a little wild, he could get caught for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he'll get put out because he's also pretty tough himself. I think he's just a little too excited. He's got to work out some of those kinks, right? He's a little early in his career. Guy's got 7 fights, made his UFC debut after 6. So a little early in his career. A couple things to clean up. $9,000 in DraftKings. Listen, I think he wins. He certainly has really good jiu-jitsu, but Mike Breeden's a tough guy. I don't necessarily think Natan Levy's going to submit him. And if he doesn't submit him, is he really worth the $9,000? That's a question.
Not
People typically answer questions. Okay.
I said I didn't. You didn't hear my head rattle?
Yeah. Okay. Definitely the little ping inside bouncing back and forth. Monkey knife fight. I think it's more and more. I think this is a decision. I think it's back and forth. I actually love the more and more here with monkey knife fight. What do you think?
It just feels like someone's getting knocked out early in this one. I don't know why.
Really?
I think so. Both these guys will throw, man.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I completely disagree. I think it's a decision. I think they go at it. And I think it's a little sloppy and back and forth. Check it out. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. If you like the more on that line, hit it now because these lines
What do you think the odds are on the over under on this? I'm about to check it. What do you think? You think it's 2.5? I think it might be 1.5.
I think it's a 2.5 line, and it's probably minus 150.
Yeah, we're about to find out here in just a second.
Okay. Well, while he's doing
2.5, and it's a plus 150 for under 2.5.
Okay, so I was correct. Minus
playing
150 for the over.
Playing it.
Okay. Wow, I can't believe I nailed that like that. Wow, impressive.
75 units on under 2.5.
Okay. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. You can follow Jacob's bet if you'd like, but make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Next up, at UFC Vegas 53, we have Yohan Lainesse taking on Gabe Green. Yohan Lainesse, 8-0 overall, 5-0 in his last 5, coming off a Contender Series win and 2 knockouts in a row. Gabe Green, 10-3 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off a solid win over Philip Rowe just last year. Yohan is a grappler who can KO you with anything from a check hook to an overhand. His striking is not very technical, but holy crap, does that guy have power. He wings big, heavy punches while charging forward, and as soon as you get comfortable striking with him, he will shoot a double leg, clean up the middle. Once he hits the ground, he works for control, and he just starts pounding away. Everything he does, it looks like it hurts. It looks like everything he throws hurts. Every time he touches you, it hurts. He just looks like a really powerful guy. He definitely is on the slower side, though. He's not the fastest guy in the division, and you know, God giveth and God taketh. He has a ton of power, but not necessarily the speed to sneak it in there. He does have a tendency to brawl, so he is a technical striker. So a technical striker will absolutely pick him apart if he's just winging those big, heavy shots from far out. Gabe Green is also a grappler with solid striking and good pressure. He has very comfortable striking style where he works in kicks really well, and he has a slick ground game where even if he's the one taken down, he's always threatening with submissions, and that sets up his sweeps, it sets up his scrambles, it sets up his ability to get back up. And this should be a really fun fight between two guys who are skilled but do have a tendency to get caught up in a brawl. I think Yohan is the far more powerful guy, and he's dangerous on his feet, where Gabe is the more dangerous grappler on the ground. Yohan will have the better takedowns, probably the cleaner, more traditional takedowns, but Green is going to be a lot faster. The odd makers, it opened this as an even fight. This was essentially a pick 'em when it opened, and the money came in, and it moved towards Gabe Green, and Gabe Green's become a good-sized favorite here. I think the scariest thing about this fight is how hittable Green is. Yohan throws big, looping punches that can end the fight at any moment. But I am going to trust Green to just throw straight punches. So you got somebody throwing big looping power, you just throw 3 straight punches right up the middle. So I trust Gabe to throw straight up the middle, get inside the looping punches, and then grapple, hopefully winning himself most likely a decision here. But Yohan's going to be live for that knockout, of course. Gabe Green, I'm hoping, stays away from that power. Jacob, please relax. The women are getting a little too excited in the live chat right now. So if you could just give us a breakdown and
my shoulders are all full of blood now. You see those things? Woo!
Yeah, the ladies are quivering, and we just need them to calm down and enjoy the show. So if you could break down.
It's funny. It's funny. I love how his elbow is like covering up the stats. It's a great job by the graphics guy there. But
it's zeros.
Okay.
He has no takedowns.
It doesn't change the fact that it doesn't change the fact that it's covering up. I don't know that there's zeros. It could be hundreds. It could be hundreds.
Okay.
The first thing I have in my notes right here for Gabe Green is hittable, because that is, I honestly can't believe that he is the favorite in this fight. He is the more like well-rounded fighter. But that dude gets hit, and his fight IQ is not great. He was destroying Philip Rowe with leg kicks. Philip Rowe, he literally knocked Philip Rowe down with a leg kick, and then just went and started grappling him. I know you're a grappler, but Jesus, man, let him back to his feet, hit him with another leg kick, finish the fight. There was times in that fight where he also was out grappled by Philip Rowe. And if you watch Yohan when he fights, if he gets on top of you, it is trouble. He fought Justin Burleson, who is known as like this jiu-jitsu guy, very, very dangerous on his back. He took him down, withstood he didn't even give a shit about all the jiu-jitsu, all the triangles, all the arm bars. He's like, get the hell off of me. And ended up getting back to his feet and then just absolutely flatlined him because you mentioned this guy's got unreal power. In this matchup, my pick's going to be Gabe Green. Let me preface that. My pick is Gabe Green because he is the better fighter. But if he does not stay technical in the striking and he ends up on his back in the grappling, he could find himself some issues. I don't think Yohan's going to submit him, but he could rain some elbows down on him if he's trying to play that jiu-jitsu game. And in the stand-up, if he doesn't come, like you mentioned, with the straight, you guys watch me strike, boom, boom, nice and tight. If he doesn't stay with that, he starts getting loopy. He's gonna get knocked the out. So my pick's gonna be Gabe Green because he is the overall better fighter, but Yohan is very, very live, and all it takes is one of those bad boys to land, and it's an issue.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's definitely going to be a nerve-wracking fight, but you got to go with the more skilled fighter in these type matchups because it's not like he's never fought a guy with power before. He's fought power before. He's avoided the knockout in the past. Gabe Green, $8,500. I actually think whatever side you're on, there's good value on both ends because $8,500 is not.
I'm changing my pick. I'm going Yohan.
Okay, why? The live chat swayed you?
No, I think he just gets hit too much, man. He just gets hit too much. Don't Yohan. I'm literally changing on my sheet right now. Here we go.
Then you love $7,700 Yohan in your DraftKings lineup. I think Gabe Green is probably a decent value at $8,500. What, no?
What?
You about to say no?
I didn't even say anything. Excuse me, sir.
Well, you came in, you said you stupid breathe heavy thing. Anyway, DraftKings.
No, I think $7,700. Yohan might get 6 takedowns, 3 knockdowns, and a finish in the first round. That's my prediction. He's going to get 274 points. DraftKings.
Okay. Well, honestly, he probably is. He's good value at $7,700 if you think he gets the knockout. Gabe Green, $8,500. Frankly, if he wins, he'll be worth that money because I see him getting takedowns, grinding out, and going from there. Monkey Knife Fight, this 102 is an absurd number. An absurd number. It is less on Gabe Green. Sorry, Chris, but that's a ridiculously high number. Less on Gabe Green. Man, 59 is low. Yeah, it's probably less because Gabe Green's going to, if he wins, it's going to be with takedowns because he's going to be avoiding the power. If Yohan wins, it's going to be with a knockout. So Monkey Knife Fight's probably less. Check that out now at wewantpicks.com/MKF. Sign up. They will instantly match your first deposit. And speaking of deposits, if you go to wewantpicks.com/bets, you sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners, make a deposit there. They will, as in us, send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. Jacob, the live chat is like demanding that I show that picture of you standing next to Tiffany again so I can show everybody how short you are. I don't really have it ready to go, so you've been spared. But stop acting like a tough guy. The live chat doesn't seem to enjoy it. Next up, at UFC Vegas 53, we have the rescheduled Alexandr Romanov taking on Chase Sherman. This was supposed to happen last week at UFC Vegas 52. Alexandr Romanov lost his original opponent, Tanner Boser. Chase Sherman steps in on 2 days' notice, clawed back from the dead. Then, an hour before the fight? Not even, half hour before the fight?
It was 2 hours.
Well, fights were live. And then they said Chase Sherman is out with an undisclosed illness, and this fight has been pushed to next week. If anybody in the live chat or the comment section knows what that undisclosed illness is, let us know in the comments. I'd be very curious. The only thing I can think of is like a stomach bug. What else could be so sick that you can't compete, but you'll be fine in 7 days? So either way, this has been rebooked. We have Alexandr Romanov taking on Chase Sherman. Alexandr Romanov 15-0. Overall, he's 5-0 in his last 5, coming off a dominant win over Jared Vanderaa. Chase Sherman, 15-9.
Oh, yeah, he did have, that's what it was. He had ligma.
What's ligma? Did I just get caught saying something? What's Ligma? What?
Yeah, Ligma.
Oh, here we go. Okay. What an absolute. You're such a fucking dork, dude. You felt good about that one? Yeah.
Shout out to Zeus. He's the one that wrote it.
Oh, all right. There you go. Chase Sherman, 50-9 overall, 2-3 in his last 5, riding a 3-fight skid. Chase Sherman, style-wise, he's actually a good boxer. He's got solid foot movement, good speed. He doesn't really have any power in his hands, which is why these odds look the way that they look. But he has volume, and he doesn't stop throwing those hands until the last bell, even if he is dog tired. He's a former bare knuckle champion, and that really does suit his style. Super tough, never stops coming forward, throwing with volume. Chase has solid takedown defense at 77%, but he does not have any head movement whatsoever, which makes him very hittable as he is hit with more than 6 significant strikes per minute. Alexandr Romanov is a fantastic high-caliber wrestler. He's a massive human being with incredible speed and power, and he uses that to just take you down and pound you out. His nickname is King Kong, and he fights similar to if King Kong was a wrestler. He blows right through you and just starts raining down hammer fist bombs.
Mounted double hammer fist. Full mount, double hammer fist. Terrifying.
He is a beast of a man, but he is coming off that very dominant win over Jared Vanderaa. But before that was a controversial win for him over wrestler Juan Espino, where Romanov's holes in his game were exposed, right? He can get taken down. He does have some cardio hiccups later in the fight, but the reality is that's not who Chase Sherman is. So Chase Sherman stepping up on short notice and then be rebooked. He was cut. He was cut from the UFC 2 weeks ago. They let him go. They brought him back for stepping up as a, thank you, I guess. He stepped up on short notice. They gave him a deal. Frankly, I don't think Chase Sherman has a shot to win this fight. It is heavyweights, but Chase Sherman isn't that one-punch knockout kind of guy, and that's what he's going to need in this matchup. He either needs to defend all the takedowns and somehow jab his way to a win, or have knockout power, and I don't see either one of those things happening. And fun fact, before I move over to you, Jacob, these odds have moved drastically over the last week and a half or so, or week, however long it has been. If it closes here and the fight happens and Alexandr, actually, even if he doesn't win, this is the biggest odd discrepancy in the history of the UFC. Right now, it's at minus 2,000 to plus 900. The other day, he was like minus 2,300, 2,400 on some books. So it did close up a little bit, but I guarantee what happened was, if you guys watched this breakdown last week, remember I threw a couple bucks on Mike Jackson to win?
Oh, here we go.
Because anytime you're going to get plus 700, 800, 900, these are fist fights. I threw a couple bucks on Mike Jackson to win. He won that fight. They got paid.
Miss Jackson.
I'm sure people felt that and were like, you know what? Plus 900 odds in a fist fight? Let me throw a couple bucks at that, which brought these odds in a little bit, but they're still ridiculously wide. Jakey boy, tell us why you think Alexandr Romanov's going to win.
Yeah, so I mentioned lock of the week earlier with Carlos. I haven't had, last time I tried to do more than one lock of the week on a fight card. It didn't work out, but we're coming back, man. Chase Sherman is the lock of the week.
Shut up! I will kick you off this show. You're done.
It's just a joke, man.
Oh, I was like,
yeah.
You are not gonna do that
the bet online odds are still minus 2,500. The crazy thing that you need to watch, they don't have the prop bets right now, but last week for a 2,500 favorite, you could still get Romanov for KO TKO at like plus 110. And buy sub for plus 100. So however way you want to play that, you could get a 2,500 favorite. Inside the distance, I think, was minus 650. You could still get plus money for this man. So I don't know if they're going to change that. Once I haven't checked the other books for Bet Online. Sign up, get your $53. We'll see what happens. So that's the bet I'm going to look to play for this fight because Romanov's going to run through this man. Chase Sherman, somebody was looking out for him and got him out of the fight, and for some reason he stayed with the fight. He should have just ran because I think didn't he get a new contract too out of this? I think he signed like a contract.
Somebody, I forget who it was. I actually think it was I forget who said it. Somebody in our comment section mentioned that they read that Chase Sherman got a 4-fight deal out of this, which I don't know if that's true, but the UFC does take care of people that step up on short notice, regardless of the circumstances.
And he got a gift of not having to fight Romanov. He should have taken it and just ran and fought later in the year. Yeah, Romanov's a play. He'll be in my DraftKings for the second week in a row.
Well, he will be in my DraftKings as well. Actually, DraftKings does not have this fight yet. This was the pricing from last week. I just left it here because I don't know if I've ever seen, what are they going to do, $9,800? Like, I don't know if I've ever seen that drastic of a gap between two people. But this picture of Romanov is nothing like what he looked like on the scale last week. He was jacked on the scale. He looked trim. He looked like muscular. He looked much better
and
than
he looked
this
much
picture
happier
here.
than the picture too. Much
No,
happier.
he looked good on that scale. So I think we're
Relax.
obviously in alignment.
Reel it in a little bit. Reel it in.
I can't imagine there's more people, anybody outside of the Sherman family on that side of the fight. So we're going to be pretty aligned here. The Monkey Knife Fight strike line, I think it's more. And I think it's a pretty easy more because Chase Sherman is tough, dude. If he does get stopped, it's like second, third round of constant just taken down, beaten up. But he's a tough guy that has no problem throwing his hands out there. He's not going to worry about the takedown. I just see him like it's a foregone conclusion. I'm going to get taken down. So I'm going to let my hands go and see what I can do before that happens. So I think he blows past his 18.5. I think Alexandr Romanov absolutely will get past 36.5 because Chase Sherman is tough. Do you agree before I jump into my...
Well, you could play over 1.5 or plus 235 if you're feeling froggy.
I honestly might. I honestly might. Chase Sherman's tough. I'm not saying he wins this fight, but Chase Sherman is tough, and Jared Vandera is not half as tough as Chase Sherman.
I think Romanov. I think this might be a submission. I think he might just get him down and work a submission real quick.
He could be. Chase Sherman was just submitted by a guy with lesser grappling skills than
Collier,
Alexandr
wasn't
Romanov. Yes. Who we'll break down later, but no matter what, I do like the more on Monkey Knife Fight. Check that out now. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. They will instantly match your deposit up to $100. And if you want $50, WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know, and I'll send you $50. What?
Speaking about that sub, when Jake Collier got on his back, Chase Sherman almost looked like he wanted to tap before it was even locked in. Collier like started to lock it in, and he was just like flat. And he almost looked like he was about to tap, and then Collier like repositioned, and then he locked in. And he immediately tapped. It was not a good look for Chase Sherman, especially against Romanov coming up. I think it's gonna be a sub win.
Yeah, I think Romanov dominates. There's people in the comments, Shamar in the comments saying, you guys think Romanov can peak twice against Sherman? Yeah.
Sherman
I don't even think he needs to peak.
Right?
I don't even think he needs to peak. I think Alexandr Romanov. Styles make fights. And I can't imagine this is the fight that I really need to sell here, but styles make fights. And we watched Chase Sherman get taken down and dominated by Jake Collier.
Put your 401k on Sherman, see what happens.
And we got Alexandr Romanov, a beast of a man, a beast of a wrestler, coming in hot. Next up, at UFC Vegas 53, we have Daniel Da Silva or Daniel Lacerda. It's the same guy, same person, but he has different profiles on UFC. Different books have him listed differently. Some books have it listed twice on the same book, like it's a different person and a fight was canceled. For some reason, the last name situation with Daniel Da Silva is kind of a mess, but Daniel Lacerda will also return you his fights and information when you're doing your own research. He's taking on Francisco Figueiredo. Francisco Figueiredo is 12-4 overall, 2-2-1 in his last 5. He's coming off a loss to Malcolm Gordon. Daniel Lacerda, 11-2 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, coming off a knockout loss in his UFC debut. And Daniel Da Silva, also known as Daniel Lacerda, is a very good striker with solid kicks and forward pressure. If he gets it to the ground, he has really good control and pressure from top, but his takedowns aren't great, so it's not really a guarantee that it'll get down there. All 11 of his wins and both of his losses are by stoppage, so he's very dangerous, but he is willing to put himself in harm's way to chase a stoppage. He's a legit threat, both standing and on the ground. Francisco Figueiredo, He is the champion's younger brother, and he has a very similar fighting style, but at 75%. So take Big Figgy, pull 70 or 25% off the top, and that's essentially what you have here with Francisco. He's an aggressive striker with a pressure and power style. He's slick on the ground as well. But I would say if he does anything better than his brother, I think he's, I don't know about skill-wise the better grappler, but he's more willing to grapple. He puts himself out there. He engages the wrestling a little more often. He sets a wrestling pace, and he grapples really well. And that shows in his stats. He averages 3 takedowns per fight with a 75% takedown accuracy and almost a 90% takedown defense. And this is another fight that opened essentially as a pick'em, and then the line has moved to Daniel Lacerda. I see it the other way. I think Francisco Figueiredo should be the slight favorite here. I think people spend too much time focusing on the fact that he's not as good as his brother, and not enough time focusing on the fact that he's a good fighter. As his, a standalone person without that last name, he is a good fighter. In this specific matchup, I do like Figueiredo to get the takedowns and grind out a win. So I'm going underdog here. Francisco Figueiredo, what do you think, Jakey boy?
This is simply Francisco is the better fighter and Daniel is the more dangerous fighter because this guy will throw bombs. This guy, I mean, you could be a smart ass about it, but I mean, that's just the way it is. So, he's more dangerous on the ground. He's very slick in his transitions. He's a more powerful fighter. Where Francisco is just one of those guys. He will wrestle you and he will control you. And that's what he does. And Daniel is a first-rounder, and he's a first-rounder bust guy. We saw that against Jeff Molina. He got his back. He was able to control him on his back. But once he was on his back, he was not able to get back to his feet. And the start of the second round, he just was not there. He was non-existent. He does have good kicks. He actually kind of throws a kick like a jab, right? He uses his front kick like a jab, which could cause some issues with Francisco to try to get takedowns early because it's hard to really get there. But if he can catch one of those kicks, get him on his back, he should be able to, I think, kind of dominate this matchup. He's got to avoid, the dangers of Daniel in the first round. But if this gets out of the first round, Francisco should dominate this fight. I think it's going to be a dominating decision to Francisco. So I agree. I think Francisco wins this.
Yeah, it'll be, if he loses, then I imagine that's kind of it, right? Like he hasn't really lived up to the hype, but they just tried to make him his brother, and he isn't. But he is a good fighter, and I do think he beats Daniel Lacerda here. Pick him in DraftKings, essentially, 8,200 to 8,000. And, if you think there's a finish, then 8,200 is the money to spend, and that'll be way worth it. But at 8,000, bunch of wrestling takedowns, some control time, I'll take that. I don't think that's a problem as well, right? You confident enough to spend the $8,000?
I don't know. That first round does kind of worry me a little bit, but I don't know if I don't think he's gonna be able to submit Francisco, and knockout is a little bit of a flyer too. So I'll probably play the 8,000.
Yeah, I think 8,000 makes more sense. Monkey Knife fight, I do think it's back and forth. I think it's a solid fight. That line is even as well. I think this is another probably more. That's 50 strikes. That's less than 20 per round if you think it goes to a decision. Couple quick, fast exchanges. I think it's more. What do you think?
I'd probably play more.
All right. Well, WeWantPicks.com/bets if you want 50 free bucks. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. Make a deposit. Let us know after you do, and we send you 50 bucks. I have to cough. And there we go. Next up, at UFC Vegas 53, we have Krzysztof Jotko taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald Meerschaert, 34-14 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, riding a 3-fight submission streak. Krzysztof Jotko, 23-5 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off a close win over Misha Serkinov. Gerald Meerschaert's a very good grappler who's always live for a submission. He's not great on his feet. People definitely question his chin, but I think he proved a lot of people wrong in his last couple of fights. His biggest issue is he has built his entire career on getting pummeled and then pulling off a last-minute submission win. He's an incredibly talented grappler, but he doesn't have very good offensive wrestling. Even though he averages a little over 2 takedowns per fight, he only has a 41% takedown accuracy. Krzysztof Jotko has fantastic speed and is very athletic. He has good takedown defense and very high volume output. He typically looks to dance around the outside and rough up his opponents, touch them from there, just stick and move style. Meerschaert took him down 5 times in his last fight, but he was able to steal that decision because of his striking on his feet. Jotko has solid takedown defense at 83%, and even if he is taken down, he has a good enough submission defense to survive. Gerald Meerschaert only has one single path to victory here, and that is by submission. But again, the issue for Meerschaert is his offensive wrestling, so you can't even count on him to have the clean takedowns, force the fight to the ground, and then make something happen. But what's crazy is people like Dustin Stoltzfus and Bartosz Fabinski had very, very clear advantages on the feet, but they decided to grapple, and then they were submitted. Just poor game planning. They lost their fight because they decided to take down Gerald Meerschaert. Jotko's not that guy. He's not going to make those mistakes. While Jotko can grapple, and he does have takedowns in 10 of his UFC fights, I think the striking gap is just so wide. Jotko doesn't even need to mess with the wrestling. He's just going to stick and move and jab his way to a pretty one-sided 15-minute decision. We see that here in the odds. I'm assuming that's why they look the way that they do. Do you think Gerald Meerschaert is able to pull off another Hail Mary submission win?
I don't blame people if they do play Meerschaert by sub, but if you're Jotko, you just have to defend takedowns, and he has good takedown defense. We saw that against Misha. It was 5 of 17. He was taken down 5 times, but you got to defend. Don't try to do anything weird in those transitions. Don't try to strike if he gets on your legs, if he gets on your hips. Don't try to do anything, but just get him off of you, because as good as your takedown defense is, it only takes one. And if he gets you to the ground, he's probably going to submit you. That's what he does. It only takes one. It could be a weird trip. It could be weird. You have to defend the takedowns, and if your butt hits that mat, you got to get back to your feet as fast as you can. But this should be a Jotko play 100% all the way. He should dominate this fight, but it only takes one. We've seen it happen before. I placed the bet I placed under 2.5 is -105. I placed that. I think it's a KO early, or if he gets down the ground, he subs him. So, but I'm Jotko all the way.
Yeah, I think it's either Jotko by decision or Gerald by submission. Because I don't think Jotko, he doesn't necessarily have that finishing power. And even though Gerald's been finished before on his feet, I don't really see that happening here. I honestly think it's kind of a boring fight. And I think it's going to be a really bad look for Gerald. He's going to get sort of taking bad shots from out of range and things like that. So I think we're both aligned on Jotko, obviously fully recognizing how dangerous Gerald Meerschaert is. $8,800 is a lot of money to spend, though, because I don't think he's going to score well. Like, just strikes without control time, not significant strikes, no takedowns, none of that, no knockdowns. That's not really going to score that well. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not going to play him.
Yeah. Strike line, though, 65 to 37. I think it's well over 65. I think he's just constantly touching Gerald Meerschaert's face. 37, if it's a stand-up striking match for 15 minutes, we're talking a little more than 10 strikes per round. He should be able to land that. So I've said this a lot tonight, but I think it's another more play.
Less.
Okay. Very helpful. If you are confident in your line and your pick, go to WeWantPicks.com/MKF. They will instantly match your deposit up to $100. And if you want 50 free bucks, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners, make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. Next up at UFC Vegas 53, we have Darren Elkins taking on Tristan Connelly. Darren Elkins, 26-10 overall, 2-3 in his last 5, and he's coming off the KO loss to Cub Swanson. Tristan Connelly, 14-7 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off a decision loss to Pat Sabatini about a year ago. Darren Elkins a year ago. Darren Elkins is incredibly tough and absolutely never out of a fight. He's always live for a finish and is the definition of a grinder. He comes forward with heavy strikes to close the distance, cuts off the cage, and then he works in his grappling from there. He's a pretty good wrestler with incredible top pressure. He can pound you out with a TKO or work to a submission. He's coming off a KO loss to Cub Swanson where he was just not able to get the takedowns, and he suffered those consequences. Essentially, Darren Elkins is scrappy, makes fights ugly, and thrives in those spots. He does struggle when his opponents are able to keep fights clean and technical. Tristan Connelly was brought into the UFC, stepped up on short notice to fight Michel Pereira 3 years ago, and that was at welterweight, which is 25 pounds heavier than this fight. But Michel blew his wad in that fight doing his capoeira dance moves, and just Tristan took advantage of that and took the win. But while that win is super impressive on paper, Tristan Connelly didn't win that fight, right? Michel Pereira lost that fight because he gassed so hard. Style-wise, Tristan's a high-pressure guy who walks forward throwing punches, and even when he's getting hit, he doesn't stop coming forward. He's tough, he has power in his hands, and he does have solid grappling behind it. And it's an interesting fight because Darren Elkins averages almost 3 takedowns per fight, and he can make this look a lot like the Pat Sabatini fight versus Tristan Connelly, where he just racks up control time, gets a pretty dominant win. But Darren can also get wild at times, and he's willing to trade. Tristan is stupid tough, and I think he can steal this fight. I think Tristan can avoid the takedowns, land those big punches, and sneak out a win. I fully recognize how tough Darren Elkins is. I fully recognize that this is like a tailor-made fight for him, right? Get the takedowns, you should be safe. But these guys get later in their careers taking the damage that it's literally his nickname, The Damage. And it's not for how much damage he puts on people. It's for how much damage he receives. I just think it's a steep drop-off for Darren Elkins here. I think Tristan Connelly gets it done. What do you think, Jakey boy?
I honestly, when I saw this fight, I can't believe Darren Elkins is almost a 2-1 favorite, honestly, versus anyone at this point in his career. Obviously, he's very tough. He's got a lot of experience, but this seems a little bit crazy that he's a 2-1 favorite versus anyone, especially someone that went up in weight, as you mentioned, and beat Michel Pereira. I mean, Michel Pereira did get tired, but I mean, he beat Michel Pereira. I mean, that's just the way it is, and he survived versus Pat Sabatini, and that's actually an accomplishment. Pat Sabatini usually finishes his fights. He had another decision win in his last fight, but typically he's finishing people. He survived versus Pat Sabatini. He beats Michel Pereira in this fight. I think he loses to Darren Elkins. Darren Elkins is an Indiana boy. That's why he's the damage. He's tough. Us Indiana Midwest guys just know how to get the job done.
Us.
When the going gets tough, the tough get going. I'm going Darren Elkins.
Okay. Yeah, we're split here. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with the Darren Elkins pick, and he's the safer pick. He's the more logical pick. Style-wise, he should win. But I just, there's points in people's careers where it turns and it turns fast. And unfortunately, I just think he's taking a couple too many shots. And Tristan Connelly has that kind of power. If he can avoid some of the takedowns and let his hands go, I can see that getting done. But I'm not going to argue with anybody saying Darren Elkins wins. He should win. He's he's got the wrestling, and that can really dictate where this fight goes. You going to spend the $8,600 though? You think he wins that much?
No, because Darren Elkins, fun little fact here, lost a striking match to Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall outstruck him 40-31 in a 3-round match. I don't think obviously that how this fight's going to go, but yeah, I'm not going to play $8,600.
Okay. Monkey knife fight, I don't know what to do with that. I honestly, it's probably less, frankly. But these are tough guys. They can go to war. I'm not touching this monkey knife fight line. I have no idea what's going to happen there. But I do like Tristan Connelly in this underdog spot, but this is not a hill I'm going to die on. I'm not going to be screaming and yelling, convincing everybody that Tristan Connelly is going to dominate this fight like I had to do with Bilal Muhammad a few weeks ago. But, yeah, it should be a fun one. I am interested to see what happens here.
This could be one of those just weird, like, fight of the year candidates. I mean, this could end up being like a weird fight of the year candidate.
No, absolutely. And it wouldn't even be, I mean, Darren Elkins is a pretty exciting guy. So, it could be.
Even in that Cub Swanson, I mean, Cub was teeing him up, and he was still like, didn't know where he was at, but he was on his feet, like looking for stuff. I mean, the guy, you can't put him away. Even when you put him away, you can't put him away.
Yeah, he's always in a fight. Yeah, we're split on this one, but if you want $50, WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners. we send you $50 as a thank you. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it. Next up at UFC Vegas 53, we have Jared Gordon taking on Grant Dawson. Jared Gordon 18-4 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, riding a 3-fight win streak. Grant Dawson 17-1 overall, 4-0-1, coming off a draw to Ricky Glenn in his last 5. Jared Gordon's a good wrestler with solid pressure and striking. He bounces between featherweight, lightweight, and catchweights in between, and you can see the size difference in some of these matchups. He's coming off a nice win over Joe Solecki, where a lot of people expected him to get out-grappled, and honestly, he was. He was taken down 4 times and gave up 6 minutes of control time. He had the majority of his success striking, and he does have a solid striking differential of 5-3. Grant Dawson has also bounced between weight classes, but he does seem to be permanently set up at 155 because he did have weight issues at 145. He looked good in his last fight, which was a draw, but Grant won that fight. He had almost 9 minutes of control time and a much higher striking percentage. Before that, he won with literally 1 second left with savage top game that just showcases heart more than anything. Dawson has a great ground game with absolutely relentless pressure. He has good technical striking, but his clear advantage in almost all of his fights is his wrestling and his grappling. And I like Jared Gordon a lot. I think he's impressed a lot of people in his last fight, but Grant averages almost 4 takedowns per fight, and Jared Gordon has been taken down in 4 of his last 6 fights, including 4 times by Joe Solecki. I think Grant Dawson is going to get this to the ground. I think he's going to rack up control time, which is probably going to be a boring fight, but a high scoring in DraftKings. So I like Grant Dawson to get the win. I do think he'll put up solid DraftKings numbers as well. Jakey boy, what do you think?
Yeah, I like Grant Dawson a lot. I think he's one of those. I always talk about the guys that are kind of like those next level guys. 17-1, has the wrestling, has the striking. I think he's one of those next level guys that's going to eventually be a top 5 guy and compete for a title. A little bit of a confession here. I read this on Tapology as Grant Dawson versus Jared Gooden. So I thought that he was fighting Jared Gooden. I was like, what the hell is going on here? But yeah, Jared Gordon, I just don't think he's going to have enough, but I didn't look into him too much because I researched the wrong guy. So, but Grant Dawson is that guy.
Super
he is that next level guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the grappling is going to be the difference here. And once you talk about grappling and you think somebody's going to win that style, then that's really where DraftKings makes sense. So he's one of the more expensive guys on the card, but $8,700 with takedowns, with control time. I absolutely think he makes sense there. You obviously have no input.
No, I definitely think so. I think he's definitely a parlay piece as well.
And do you think he would have beaten Jared Gooden?
That would have been tough because Gooden is a well-rounded, very big. I mean, he's a 170. I was surprised that he was going to come down to lightweight. Honestly, I didn't know how he was going to make the weight. And actually, he had just fought like literally a couple weeks ago. So.
All right. Okay.
I mean, I got notes on him. If you want notes.
Well, and this is another one, a monkey knife fight. I don't know exactly what to do because I think it's a grappling match, essentially. So it's going to be hard for Jared Gordon to get off 86 strikes or 87 to beat the line when he's defending takedowns and he's on his back quite a bit. So I don't know what to do with this monkey knife fight. This quite literally might be a less more, right? Jared Gordon's going to land less than 86, but Grant Dawson may land more than 75 because of top pressure and just pounding away on top. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. If you want to check out Monkey Knife Fight, they will instantly match your deposit up to $100. And WeWantPicks.com/bets. If you want 50 free bucks, we send you $50 as a thank you for supporting us and our partners. Next up at UFC Vegas 53, we have Andre Touchy Fili taking on Joe Anderson Burrito. Andre Fili, 21-8 overall, 2-2-1, coming off a no contest with Daniel Pineda because of an eye poke in his last 5. Joe Anderson Burrito, 12-3 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off a loss to Bill Algeo. Andre Fili, he's a really well-rounded guy, and he was supposed to be the next big thing coming out of Team Alpha Male, but he never really lived up to that hype, and I think part of that was matchmaking. I do think they threw him in with killers a little too early. Max Holloway was his second fight in the UFC, and then his losses were to Yair Rodriguez and Calvin Kattar. Style-wise, Andre's a very well-rounded technical brawler with wrestling. He gets hit often, which you can see with his negative striking differential when I get to that slide, and he relies on his chin quite a bit, which for the most part has held up, but you really can't build a long career, and you can't fight into your mid to late 30s leaning on your chin. Joanderson Brito is a very fast and athletic grappler with solid top pressure and a wide array of submissions. He's coming off a close loss to Bill Algeo where he had 2 takedowns, which was after a dominant win on the Contender Series where he had 3 takedowns. His striking isn't very technical, but he will come forward and throw bombs. Big, wide punches and heavy kicks with almost no regard for what comes back his way. But even though he's comfortable striking, he will look to get it to the ground and work from there. And this could be a really fun fight. Both Fili and Brito have no problems getting into a war, and both these guys are really well-rounded. Each have solid striking with the technical advantage to Fili and solid grappling with the advantage to Brito. I think this fight can end up looking a lot like the Algeo-Brito fight, where Algeo was able to get the better of the striking exchanges and hang in the grappling department. If Fili works in his takedowns like he did when he had 5 takedowns against Charles Jourdain, he should be able to avoid the submissions and gride out a win. I'm like an Andre Fili here, but I got to be honest with you, when I was taking my notes and doing my breakdown, I was flipping back and forth. My gut was like, Joanderson Brito beats him. And then I was digging in, looking at the stats, looking at their last few fights, and I went Andre Fili. So I think the odds are wide. I think the DraftKings pricing is a little wide, but I do think Andre Fili wins. What do you think, Jicky boy?
I'm a big Andre Fili guy. I like him because he is so well-rounded. I love those well-rounded guys that are slick with their striking, but also good on the ground. But when I researched this fight, I thought that Joanderson Brito was going to be the favorite in this fight, as dominant as he showed in his wrestling abilities. And he, it was one of those, he picked up Bill Algeo in that fight and started just carrying him around the octagon. He was like, it's like he couldn't find his corner. It was a very kind of funny situation. He was like, just carrying him around. He's like, oh, there's my corner. Ended up dumping him, controlling him on the ground. If you watch Andre Fili versus Bryce Mitchell, he was controlled that entire fight. And obviously Bryce Mitchell is a different animal, right? He is that next level guy. He's that next level grappler. Everyone is going to end up on your back and controlled by Bryce Mitchell. But I think that path to victory for Joanderson Brito is there. I think if he can get this fight to the ground, he can. We've seen Andre Fili not be able to get back to his feet from his back, and I think that path to victory is there. His last fight against Bill Algeo, that was his UFC debut. You could tell he's a little bit jittery. He came out a little too aggressive. He kind of blew his load a little bit. You could see he gassed in those later rounds, but he's one of those guys that he gets tired, but he doesn't stop when he's tired. He'll get tired, physically, but mentally he's still there. He'll still push forward. He'll still try and push that pace. And if he's able to still get those takedowns late, I think that he can win this fight. So I'm a big Andre Fili guy. I like his game. But I'm going with the underdog here. I'm going with Joanderson Brito just because I think that path to victory is there with the takedowns and controlling them on the ground. If Andre Fili comes out and wins, that's what he's supposed to do. He's almost a 3-1 favorite, but I'm going with Joanderson Brito with that path to victory with the grappling.
Well, and he is a dreamer, so this could work out for him. I think I don't necessarily disagree, and I had the same gut feeling, but then I watched back that Bill Algeo fight, and Brito had 2 solid takedowns, and he still lost that fight. And I think this could actually look similar, where, well, first of all, Andre Fili can also wrestle. So it's not ridiculous that he takes down Brito. But, I am going with Fili here, but I think the odds are really wide. And when I saw it on paper, before taking my notes, before doing anything else, I was like, Joanderson Brito. I literally checked the box on my notes before I did. And then I dug in, watched it, looked at it, and then I flipped my pick there. But these odds are crazy. I don't like Andre Fili at $9,300. Because I don't think he's going to stop Brito. And if he doesn't stop him, the only way to really make it worthwhile money-wise is to get 1 million takedowns in control time, which I don't necessarily know. That might happen, but I just don't know if it will.
I can't see him wanting to entertain the ground game of Brito. I think he needs to pressure with the striking. That's what you do. You pressure the wrestlers, put them on their back foot, get him tired because Brito will get tired. But if he ends up on his back at all, it's bad news. This could be a live bet situation. I mean, if early on, if Breeden was able to get that easy takedown and control him, you better start smashing that.
Yeah, I mean, depending how my DraftKings lineup works out, I may end up having Joanderson Brito in that. We'll see what that looks like. But, I do think Andre Fili should win this fight. I think he's the better striker. And just like I said, this may be a complete repeat of the Bill Algeo Joanderson Brito fight. 54 strikes to 45. I do think this is a war. I do think it goes the distance or very close to it. So I think this is a more monkey knife fight play. Check that out. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say Brito is plus 210. The plus 3.5 for Brito is at minus 110.
Yeah, so if you don't know what that bet is, you're basically buying a round on the judge's scorecard. So you can go straight Joanderson Brito, plus 210, he has to win the fight in real life. Or, Jacob just said at minus 110, you buy a round on the judge's scorecard. So if Joanderson Brito wins on his own, straight up wins the fight, you get paid. If Joanderson Brito loses a 29-28, you still get paid because you bought a round on the scorecard, and all you needed him to do was win a round on his own. You're only going to get that bet at WeWantPicks.com/bets. We have 5 partners. The one partner that offers the buy a round bet is Bet Online. If you hop in through our link and you make a deposit, I send you $50 as a thank you. Tiffany came in here before talking about the dogs throwing up like crazy, so we'll see how that goes. Next up, at UFC Vegas 53, we have Andrei Arlovski taking on Jake Collier. This is I feel like this is the exact same fight Andrei Arlovski has had in the last 2 years. This is the exact same fight over and over again. Andrei Arlovski 33-20 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, and that lone loss was to Tom Aspinall. 13-6 for Jake Collier overall, 3-2 in his last 5, alternating wins and losses. Jake Collier was a middleweight, and at middleweight he was big, in shape, jacked, looked good. Then he moved to light heavyweight, okay, not great, not miserable, good size light heavyweight, and now he looks like this. He's moved all the way up to heavyweight. I don't know of any specific reason, but he is a heavyweight. He's not extremely powerful, but he's also doesn't gas. He's not as soft as this picture. I think this is an exceptionally bad picture as well. This is just not a great picture, but he was a middleweight. And if you break down his middleweight film, he's a pretty well-rounded guy, pretty skilled guy. He's taken some of those skills up to heavyweight, but it wasn't until his last fight against Chase Sherman where we actually saw him using his grappling. Technique-wise, again, he's a well-rounded guy. He worked in some grappling in his last fight, and typically he's a volume striker with forward pressure and not a ton of power. And at this point, I imagine every single one of you know who Andrei Arlovski is. He's the former heavyweight champion of the world. He will be in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the most accomplished heavyweights to ever do it. The guy has 50-some-odd fights. 40-something of them have been in the UFC. He's beaten world champions. He's fought everybody on planet Earth for the last 20 years, and he's still in there. He's still getting it done. I mentioned he's only 4-1. He's 4-1 in his last 5, and his only loss was to Tom Aspinall. And style-wise, he's got very good boxing. He's got pretty good kicks. And as of late, he has been a decision machine. He's been fighting for over 20 years. He brings all of that veteran savvy, and he continues to evolve his game. Just 5 years ago, Andrei Arlovski was looking for the big punch, chasing the knockout. And now he's settled into this rhythm where his chin is good enough to hang. He knows for a fact he's going to be faster and more technical and smarter than almost everybody he fights. And he uses those skills to ride out decisions. He's 43 years old. And the question always, especially at heavyweight, is his chin going to hold up? I have no idea. But I don't think it matters because Jake Collier doesn't have that KO power to knock out Andrei Arlovski. Jake Collier is very talented. Jake Collier could win a decision here, right? He can out-volume strike Andrei Arlovski, but I don't think Andrei's chin is a factor in this fight, even though he's 43 years old. But I do feel like this is a carbon copy of 5 of Andrei Arlovski's last 6 fights, basically kickboxing matches against lesser opponents. I think Andre gets his 4th decision win in a row. I think he's got better technique, better conditioning. He'll be a little faster, a little more to the point on every single strike. Even if Jake wants to work in some grappling like he did in his last fight, I don't think that's going to be an issue for Arlovski. Arlovski has a 78% takedown defense over 43 UFC fights. 43 fights in the UFC, a 78% takedown defense. That's insane. Like, that is an insane statistic over that span of fights, over some of the people that he's fought. I like Andrei Arlovski to win here. Veteran savvy, solid striking, another decision win in a row. And I have a money line bet on Andrei Arlovski. I got a little bit better than this. I think it was minus 130, I think I got him for. But money line bet on Andrei Arlovski. I like him to get literally the same exact win over and over and over. What do you think?
I think chins are going to be tested in this one. I think whoever's chin holds up is going to win, and I'm going with Jay Collier. I think he's going to have the speed advantage. He is a heavyweight, but he still fights like a middleweight. He still fights like a smaller guy. He's got the speed. He kind of has that middleweight power and heavyweight. That's why he doesn't get a lot of finishes. But I could see these guys throwing down. In that Chase Sherman fight, there was some exchanges where they were landing shots. Jay Collier was eating those shots fine. You mentioned the grappling. It wasn't a takedown. He caught a kick, and Chase Sherman just fell down. So he just followed him to the ground, and that's where Chase Sherman basically just kind of gave up in that choke. So it wasn't like a true, like he's trying to grapple. It's just an opportunistic thing. But he took advantage of it. He was on the ground. He submitted the guy. So this is a tough fight to pick. Both these guys are, neither one of these guys are knockout guys. Both have been knocked out before. It is really kind of a toss-up. So I'm going to play the underdog side. I got to stick with my boy Jake. We got to do that. So I'm going Jake Collier on the underdog role. I think he knocks him out.
You betting $100? Let's bet $100.
I'm not going to bet $100 on that fat turd.
Well, we just heard this whole speech about it.
I said it's a toss-up, but I'll play the underdog role. Listen, he's 43 years old. At some point, you're just going to start losing. He's had a nice little streak, but you can't just keep going. You just can't.
Okay. Well, last week you were very confident that Clay Guida could just keep going at 40. You clown.
I thought he did great.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we are split on this one as well. I'm very confident on Andrei Arlovski. I literally put my money where my mouth was. I did a money line bet on Andrei Arlovski. Jacob is absolutely flat refusing to bet me on this fight, and that's fine. He likes Jake Collier to win. You going to spend $7,800 in DraftKings on your best friend Jake?
I said it's a toss-up, but I'll play the underdog. I don't have any confidence in him.
I thought so.
You're acting like I'm sitting here like arguing with you about it. Like, okay.
Please calm down.
I don't
Please
care.
calm down. Please. We need to be professionals. People constantly come here and say, guys, be more professional. I don't like the comedy. I just want the picks, and I just want the facts. Be more professional. And that's what I'm going to need you to do, Jacob.
Did you watch his fight versus Bofa?
You're not going to get me twice.
You almost got it.
You're not going to get me twice.
A little pause there.
All right.
Anyway.
Monkey Knife Fight, I think it's a clean more. I think it's literally a kickboxing match for 15 minutes. I love the more Monkey Knife Fight. WeWantPicks.com/MKF. They will instantly match your deposit up to $100. Take their free money. Give them 50, they'll give you 50. Take their free 50, spend their free 50, leave yours alone. And speaking of 50, I will send you $50 if you just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our 5 betting partners, and you make a deposit. I send you $50. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, however you want it. Next up, at UFC Vegas 53, we have Rob Font taking on Marlon Vera in the main event. Rob Font is 19-5 overall, 4-1 in his last 5, and he's coming off a disappointing decision loss to Jose Aldo. Marlon Vera, 20-7 overall, 3-2 in his last 5, riding a 2-fight win streak. Rob Font, another Northeast guy. He's gritty, tough, and technical. Rob has solid power, pretty good chin. Jose Aldo tested it, but a pretty good chin, great boxing, and a great get-up game. He's primarily a boxer, so he doesn't kick often, but he doesn't need to because his hands are so clean and so fast, and he just works in and out of the pocket really well. He will enter the pocket, hit you, and leave before most fighters know what happened. If you look at his stats, he has fantastic volume and a solid striking differential of 3-2. He is coming off that loss to Jose Aldo, but Font won that fight statistically. I'm not arguing that he won the fight. But if you look at the stats and the stats only, he landed 193 strikes. Jose Aldo only landed 96. Font had 1 takedown. Jose had 0. But Font did give up 9 minutes of control time. And that was the differentiator. Jose Aldo's punches had a little more sting on him, and he was able to get some control time and win that fight. But Rob Font, talented guy, great boxer, and he has worked in wrestling successfully in the past. Marlon Vera. He's a Muay Thai striker who likes to fight ugly. He uses all 8 of his limbs. And when I say that, that's a traditional Muay Thai thing. You use 8 limbs. That's his elbows, his knees, his hands, and his feet. He's a pretty versatile guy, and he uses pretty wide array of attack styles. To round out his dangerous striking, he also brings a submission threat to the cage and an iron jaw. He has a ton of stoppage power and finishes. He does have a negative striking differential, and he can be hittable, but he does a good job of mixing in takedowns to avoid too much damage. He took down both Davy Grant and Song Yadong twice. I think this is a great fight night main event, right? This is what fight night main events should be. 2 contenders looking for 1 win, like title eliminator style fight, and it's a fun fight, and I'm really looking forward to it. Both guys are primarily strikers that do have grappling in their back pocket. I think Font is the much cleaner striker and specifically the better boxer, but Vera has a knack for making people fight like an in-your-face, less technical style. He forces technical people to not be technical. He just pulls that out of them, and if he can pull Font out of his range and get him in the pocket, he could definitely have some success. I do like Font to win. I think he's a little too composed, a little too well-rounded to get caught up in a firefight. I like Font to mirror some of the success he had against Jose Aldo, like his accuracy and his volume, but this time I think he gets the win. So Chita Vera has an incredible chin and a ton of power, so Rob is going to need to stay on point for the full 25 minutes, but I do like Rob Font to get the win, and I got him at minus 140 money line bet. I like Rob Font. People love Chito Vera. The comments on my quick pick video, like, you guys are obsessed with Chito Vera. But frankly, I just think there's levels, and I don't think Chito Vera is as good as Rob Font. What do you think, Jackie boy?
Yeah, let's go through the last 5 Chito Vera fights, because he lost versus Song Yadong. He was going to lose versus Sugar. I mean, Sugar was going to outstrike the shit out of this dude, blew out his ankle, so he gets a win versus Sugar. Then he loses versus Jose Aldo, so that's 3 losses in a row. And then he wins a decision versus Davy Grant. Then he fights Frankie Edgar, and he's getting the shit beat out of him the entire fight, finds a front kick, and ends up winning the fight versus Frankie Edgar. Now he's in a main event versus Rob Font, who outstruck Jose Aldo by 100 strikes. He did flatlined a few times in that fight. He got absolutely leveled by Jose Aldo, but that's what Jose Aldo does, and there's actually a stat where Jose Aldo has never lost against somebody that's not either the champion or the number 1 contender. That's the only people Jose Aldo has ever lost to, is the champion or number 1 contender. So he was up against the very, very best, and still looked good in some of those exchanges, and was putting the pressure on and was there for the entire time. So, I'm a openly Cheeto hater for whatever reason. I'm very biased. I have nothing really against the guy personally. He's very tough too. He's going to be there for all very 5 durable rounds. He is very tough. He's never been finished. He's going to be there in Rob Font's face. But as far as technicality, as far as, just all around well-rounded mixed martial artist, Cheeto is just not on the level of Rob Font. The thing that worries me about this fight is Cheeto can get pretty slick with his submissions. He's got a good guillotine, and Rob Font showed in that Aldo fight a willingness to grapple, and he showed willingness to grapple. If I'm Rob Font, I think you need to grapple only to kind of slow the pace of Cheeto a little bit. Cheeto's not going to get tired. You're not going to break him down, but just to kind of throw him off a little bit with his striking. The takedown opportunities are going to be there. He throws a lot of kicks. The legs will be there, but in those takedowns, you got to be really careful of those guillotines, because I don't want this. I'm sick of the guillotines, guys. I'm sick of guillotines. There was 3 fighters last week that lost by guillotines that should have won the fight. Rob Font, I don't want you to be one of those guys that's going to lose by guillotine in this fight. I think you need 1 takedown a round. I think late in the round, 45 seconds, 30 seconds go all in for a takedown. That way, in case you get caught in something, the round will end. You can survive that round. But Rob Font should dominate this fight. Cheeto Vera, very, very tough, but just not on that level. There's levels in this game. Rob Font's one of those next level guys. Cheeto Vera, very tough. He's not quite there. This should be a Rob Font unless something crazy happens, like one of those stupid-ass guillotines.
The comment section is wild. This guy, Michael McClanlin, going freaking nuts. I think he's Cheeto Vera's brother. This feels very similar to the Joel Alvarez breakdown where the fans of the underdog were just rabid, foaming at the mouth, can't even fathom how we could be on the other side. Rob Font is a phenomenal striker. If you disagree, let's just look at his stats versus you guys think Cheeto Vera is like the next coming of Christ. Well, Cheeto Vera gets punched in the face more than he punches other people. So, striking defense, not great. Cheeto Vera averages less than 1 takedown per fight. Cheeto Vera has a 42% takedown accuracy. And I get it. Not that Rob Font's grappling statistics are eclipsing that, but Rob Font is landing 5.64 significant strikes and only hit with 3.5. So Cheeto Vera statistically gets hit often. Pretty straightforward.
We're
both
both
on
the
the
dog.
Rob
Even the
Font side.
dog's like, what the hell are you talking about? You hear? He's pissed off.
We both agree. Rob Font. I'm going to spend the $8,300. I already did a money line bet on Rob Font. Michael McClanlin. I hope you're here on Saturday or Sunday, whenever the hell, and come back and apologize. Just be a normal human being. Also,
And that's what, yeah, Robot Chicken Wings nailed it. That Sugar Sean fight was, I mean, he would have got knocked out clean. That would have been his first KO loss for Sugar Sean in that fight. He was getting destroyed in the striking. And Rob Font is a very dynamic striker with even more power than Sugar. This could be the first KO loss of Cheeto's career.
I don't think so. He's stupid.
I think
tough.
if anyone is going to put out Cheeto, it might be Rob Font.
I just think this looks like this is gonna sound extreme, like what Holloway did to Rob Font's teammate there, Calvin Kattar. I think he just lights him up on his feet. Just lights him up on his feet, beats him up. He ends up a little bloodied. Cheeto Vera is super tough. Good everywhere, just not good enough. I mean, even look at the Monkey Knife Fight stats. He gets to these numbers by looking at their last fights. This is how many strikes Rob Font lands in his fights. Anyway, we're both on the Rob Font side. A couple of you rabid, irrational fans going absolutely bananas for Vera. I'm not going to disagree with somebody saying that Vera wins. But the all caps comments saying, are you crazy? He's going to die. Makes no sense. You're all going to lose money. Go scream at children playing in the yard. Leave the breakdowns to the people.
Get off my grass. Get off my grass.
I don't know what to do with the Monkey Knife Fight line. Those are giant numbers. So I'm not going to touch that Monkey Knife Fight line. I'll wait to see if it moves throughout the week. If you guys want to keep arguing about these fights, I encourage you to join our free Discord. The Discord costs literally $0. There is a comment or a link in the description below. Hop in there, argue with each other there. And if you want $50 for free, we want picks.com/bets. We have 5 betting partners, 5 on the website, 5. Click one of those 5 links, make a deposit, we send you $50. I get requests for $50 all the time. People asking me money. Hey, I do this. Can I get $50? We have 5 betting partners. Click on one of the 5 links. You'll get $50. Any last words for the crew?
I'm ready to get lock of the week back on track. Back on track. Carlos, baby.
I hear you. I'm with you. All right, guys. Well, thank you all very, very much for the watch. Join the free Discord. It costs nothing. Sign up for all the things. We'll see you on Saturday for a pre-fight live stream. Oh, and don't forget, we want picks.com/vote. Vote there for who you think wins this week.